I'm now asking myself why I do a thing.
We are the ones that can provide the solution to the problem.
I'm having a blast.
Welcome to One-on-One at Sun and Fun. We've got the Thunderbirds practicing overhead, so you're going to hear some noise. But speaking of Thunderbirds, I actually have a Blue Angels pilot here talking with us. Mark, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And Mark, your call sign is Ziggy?
Ziggy.
Ziggy.
Ziggy Ziegler. So.
Ziggy Ziegler, that's right, okay. So there's another good pass. So this noise and what they're doing is super familiar to you. You've been a Blue Angel pilot. So walk me through, as we hear the noise above us, what are they're practicing for, because they're going to be in the show later today. What are they doing?
Okay, so when you first get to an air show site, you everything is based on mileage for timing. So as they practice each of these maneuvers, they're finding checkpoints at 3 miles, 2 miles, 1 mile.
Like on the ground?
On the ground, and we're not talking a row of houses. We're looking for a specific tree to mark.
Oh, wow.
Or a pond or whatever.
Aim small, miss small.
Aim small, and then based on the crosswinds, now you adjust your airspeed from 3 miles, 2 miles, depending on which side you're on, so that you come across. The biggest thing is always the 6-plane cross, usually at the end of the show, but you also want all the maneuvers to be over center point.
Okay, so that's what they're doing now. Would you call it marking, or what did you say it was?
Yeah, they're just locating all their checkpoints.
Locating checkpoints. So, all right, you flew in the Blue Angels. Take me back. Tell me a little bit about how you got into aviation, how you got into the Navy, and then how you got into Blue Angels.
Okay, I'll tell you kind of a short story. The Air Force paid me to go to college.
Air Force, okay.
The Air Force. So I was under Air Force contract in 1973 when I started at the Citadel. 75, they had a reduction in force because the war was ending. They said I could. There were only 300 seats, not 1,300. I was a soccer player with a 2.6 average, and I was not an option for the Air Force at that time.
I see.
So they asked me to be a missile man, fly a desk, or terminate my contract. I terminated my contract, but they continued to pay for my education.
Okay.
That was part of the deal. And then I went to took me 3 times, and I got accepted into the Navy. And then I started flight school right after graduation, and all through T2s, A4s, and I wanted to be an A7 driver, single seat, and I ended up as an instructor in the A4, and then the rest is history. A7s, 3 cruises, and then I transitioned, stood up the East Coast training squadron for the F-18.
The A4, the Skyhawk.
Yes.
I haven't had many people talk about flying that plane. What was it like flying the A4?
Oh, the A4, we call it the Scooter.
Scooter, okay.
And that's what it was. It had a 720-degree roll rate. When I got in the cockpit, I had to turn sideways to bring the canopy down so my shoulders touched. You were one with the airplane, and it was such a fun airplane to fly.
Oh, it was.
And as long as it started, and they always started, you became one with the plane, and it was just fun to drop bombs from it, dogfight with it, and just do low-level navigation. It's just a super airplane. And the Blues flew it for almost 20 years.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes.
So they went from the A4 to the F-18.
The F-18, they froze the team, so they picked no new pilots when they transitioned. So they knew the show, but as they transitioned, and I was in the first group of 3 to join them after they transitioned to the F-18.
So that's how you went to the F-18? Was during your time in the Blues?
Actually, prior, I had stood up. I went to the training squadron. So the Blue Angels actually came to Cecil Field, Florida, up the road. And that's where we transitioned them from the A4 to the F-18. So I had kind of a shoe in a little bit because I knew all of them and I flew with all of them. And then when I applied for the team, they knew who I was.
Okay.
Who I was. So.
And how long did you stay in the Blues?
So it's a 2-year tour. The narrator stays 3 years, so he narrates for a year. But you're in the formation. Every year there's 3 new pilots. And just like the Thunderbirds, the same thing. They stay 2 years.
I want to know, in all your time in the Navy flying, did you have any scary or close encounters of an emergency or anything like that?
Well, now you're gonna make me put me on the spot here.
Yeah.
I have 1 less landing than I do takeoff.
Okay.
So my Fearless A7 I was in Fallon, Nevada on a weapons detachment and took off out of there, and the engine decided to stop working at about 1,000 feet after I just took off, and I got to parachute once, and I'm never doing it again.
How fast were you going when you?
I tried to slow down to 200, but but there was a mountain coming up in front of me, so I ended up ejecting about 250 knots.
Wow. And what does that feel like?
It was everything slowed down. I mean, people have tell you, in an accident or whatever. I can remember going through the canopy. The A7, the canopy doesn't come off; it shoots you right through the canopy. So I could feel the wind going down my chest, and then as I got there, we have a little rocket motor here that takes the seat and twists it away from you, and so we called it an ear burner. So I had my eyes closed. I heard the ear burner go off, and then it's like, okay, open. Okay, please open. This is not funny, open. And then I finally got opening shock at about 1,000 feet off the ground.
1,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Did you have any injuries?
I had no injuries, little superficial cuts from going through the plexiglass, but no sore neck. A couple of hematomas on the back of my legs from my legs slapping the bottom of the seat, but I flew 3 days later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you get into trouble for crashing a?
Well, it was nice when they went out in the desert and they found my big hole that I had made because I had 400 or 500 pound bombs and a bunch of 20 millimeter. We were going out on weapons flight, and they found the engine about a quarter mile away, and only one side of the blades were bent. So that means it was not turning when it hit the ground. So that kind of took
Cleared
the pressure.
You. Yeah.
It cleared me. So
nice. That's always good.
It is good.
All right. Now, that was your Navy career. Talk about transitioning out, how you got to continue to fly and everything.
So I've always continued. I always enjoyed general aviation. The Navy back in their day would have flying clubs at all the Navy bases, and I would go as I went to a base. I would stay and I would work in the flying club and stay flying general aviation. I just enjoyed it's fun to go fast, but it's also great to see the world at 100 miles an hour at a couple thousand feet. And so I always enjoyed that, and my kids enjoyed aviation. Of course, couldn't take them in a Navy jet, so I took them all flying in a general aviation, and all my kids love it, as does my wife.
What do you fly nowadays?
So right now I'm flying a Super Petrel. It's a light sport amphibian airplane built by Skoda Aeronautica in Brazil, and they're brought up 2 at a time in a cargo box crate, and then we unload them. And as part of, I am the director of maintenance for Super Petrel USA. I reassemble them. So I put it's a biplane, so I put the wings on it and the horizontal tail and the rudder. And then to connect all the pitot-static lines and put the Garmin Cirrus XM inside the airplane. So it takes me about a day to assemble one of these airplanes. So two come, and I've assembled both of them in 2 days.
A biplane today, a newly engineered plane, and it's a biplane. What's the thought behind that?
So the thought behind it is because it's an amphibious airplane. The secret is getting off the water.
Okay.
So in a 30-foot wingspan, we now have twice the lift.
Okay.
And so
but
helps
the drag too.
We do have the drag. So but it fits well for light sport, which is restricted or limited to 120 miles an hour, 120 knots. And so the biplane, talking to Rodrigo, the designer and builder, he says the fastest it's going to go is probably 145. So we're still ahead of the parasitic drag, so we still have the thrust. So, but we meet the light sport limitation and also get all the benefits of the biplane.
Well, speaking of light sport, right now they're still going through the Mosaic review and everything else. How will Mosaic affect something like the light sport amphibious planes?
Great question, because right now a light sport aircraft is limited to 1,320 pounds.
Right.
So our previous airplane weighed 850 pounds.
Okay.
So you just do the math. It's how much useful load do you have? With the new airplane, because it's amphibian, it's 1,430, but that gives us just about 480 pounds. So you and I, we're probably not going to. We'll be able to go and fill it up with partial gas, but
Right.
But we're not going to be able to top it off and go on long flights. So Mosaic, we're hoping, will open up, take away the weight limitation
Okay.
and the speed limitation for us, because we've got that 915 motor in there, the 141 horsepower. We actually have the props pitched so it doesn't go faster than 120.
Oh, okay.
So if they go, okay, you can go 150, well, we know that it's not going to go faster than 145 just because it's a biplane, but tweak the props a little bit, and
Get
we're
some
now going to
knots.
go 130.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with the weight. It's already been tested in Brazil. Brazil approved 1,500 pounds. So right there,
Wow.
it's going to add 80. And if they go to 1,550 or something, it just opens up that window for being able to increase that weight available.
Well, hopefully Mosaic will get through with all these kind of all these minimums raised where they're talking about. I think it'll be really good for aviation.
It'll be tremendous for aviation. It's for all of aviation. It's long overdue, and I was excited to see them come out with their initial Mosaic rules, and we're hoping maybe sometime this year would be awesome.
All right, people want to know more about the Super Petrel. Where do they go? Is there a website?
There is a website. It's superpetrelusa.com. You can go on there. We are in Ormond Beach, Florida.
Okay.
So we welcome everybody that's interested. Maybe come out and take a test flight, because that's what sort of got me hooked.
Right.
I'm 6'4". My
Okay.
partner in the airplane is 5'6". So we're
Shortney.
the extremes. So Shortney and Ziggy from Wings of Gold Aviation, we're the extremes. I fit very comfortably in it.
If you fit and if he fits, you will fit.
The rest of the population should fit without any problem.
All right, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget our sponsors like Flying Eyes. We're at their booth here. And if you go on to flyingeyesoptics.com, use our discount code taking off all caps one word, you'll get 10% off. 67 designs, great mounts for your plane, boat, or car. 67d.com, clemensinsurance.net. Jerry saved me a lot of money when I switched over to them, so check them out. Don't forget Marshall Protective Services, personal protection elevated. Z-Vision, the brightest landing and taxi lights out there, xcvision.com. And Colton Mortgage, coltontakingoff.com for your residential mortgage. Thank you all. We'll see you next time on Taking Off.
I wanna be, I'm gonna wish, gonna